He's got a great new album out called Lost at Sea. Let's hear it for Chris Shiflett. Chris, so great to have you here at the Grammy Museum.
I sound great.
You do. You got a few Grammys, you guys. You know what I mean? But it's amazing the history that you have. Chris, you know, we met, of course, probably briefly in the days of No Use for a Name, but I want to go all the way back and talk about you when you were a kid growing up in Santa Barbara. Okay. Can you tell me about, you had an older brother, two older brothers, right?
Two older brothers and a stepbrother.
Yeah, so there's always rock and roll and music around the house, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. My older brothers, by the time I was born, had really good record collections. So I didn't need to think about, like, what music I was going to be into, because it was just whatever my brothers thought was the thing, then that was the thing, you know?
Yeah. So you started actually playing guitar at around 11 years old, though, right?
I did. Yeah. At first I was, because my oldest brother, Mike, played guitar, and then my brother, Scott, started playing bass. Was really like his first instrument. So I was like, well, I can't do either of those. You know, that's my brother's stuff. So I wanted to play piano or keyboards like Greg Giuffria from Angel.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I saw...
We got some Angel fans in the house.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I saw Angel with the opening bands Judas Priest and the Gods when I was a teenager. Yeah. I saw...
Give it up for Matt Pinfield. Come on.
I loved Angel.
He's way. I should be interviewing you about your early record buying experiences.
No, but it's great. You were thinking about that because you're the Angel.
Yeah. I wanted to be a keyboardist just to do something. Like I knew I wanted to play something. I was like 11, or no, probably at that point I was probably about 10, and so I asked my mom to get me a piano, and she did. And they moved it in. It was all heavy, and they put it in the living room, and then I just never touched it. It sat there for like a year, and I was like, I want to play guitar, man. I want to be like Ace Frehley. Yeah, so that's how it all started.
And you had the record collection, but isn't the first record that you bought double platinum the compilation of Kiss?
It is, which was weird because my brothers already had that. I don't know why I bought that, but I just went to the record store with like my $6. I was like, I got to get something. Yeah. I didn't have to buy records for a long time, you know. I just listened to like whatever my brothers had, and they had everything great, you know. That's like the 70s, so it's like they just had like Sabbath and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep and Aerosmith, all that stuff. You know?
Another great underrated band. Those early Heep records are amazing. Yeah. I love those.
Mick Box.
Yeah.
He's a ripper.
Ken Hensley, right? He's a big keyboard player, and David Byron.
Lee Kerslake.
Yeah, the drummer, and ended up playing on the first.
We're losing the audience right now.
Sorry, guys. We're geeking out on 70s bands that are that should have been bigger in the U.S. or should have been bigger. Period. Yeah. No, but that was incredible. So. And your brother Scott, of course, played bass, right? So he went on years later to play with Face to Face and a bunch of people.
Yeah. No, I mean, my brother Mike's an incredible guitar player. My brother Scott was just always good. That's like my memory of him. I don't remember him ever not being good on his instrument. And it's I don't remember exactly when he started playing guitar, but probably pretty much at the same time as playing bass. He was just always really good. I picked up a lot just from being in the room growing up with my brothers, for sure.
Do you remember the first song that you learned to play on guitar?
Absolutely, yeah. My first guitar teacher was the best guitar teacher I probably ever had, because he, like I said, I was like 11, and I wanted to learn how to play like Randy Rhoads, but you can't just do that when you first pick up a guitar and you're playing an acoustic. So he made me learn a couple of scales, and he made me he got me a Beatles songbook. Beatles, I still have it. It's like Beatles for beginners, and that was probably for any budding guitar players out there, that is kind of all you need. I learned all my cowboy chords from that Beatles, and the first song was Hey Jude.
Yeah, what a great song.
Yeah.
So,
snarfles.
So, let's talk about some of the earliest bands you had. I know it's amazing because we were looking at a picture of your band Lost Kittens that had Luke Tierney in there.
Thank you, Marco. I know you're in this room.
Marco sent it to my girlfriend. She showed it to Chris. That's a great. How old were you then when you did it?
I'm not. That was a band that we put together in high school, so I would have been probably 16 or something in that picture. Yeah, it's good. I had a lot of hair back then. Yeah, a lot of hair.
But it's a great photo. And those guys went on to, Sugarcoat and everything. But
it's cool. I mean, when we were growing up in the 80s in Santa Barbara, me and like my friend Marco, wherever he is in here, and my buddy Luke, and all the folks that we were kind of playing with at that time, we were so determined to move to LA, and we wanted to move to LA and like make it and be in a band and all that stuff, that I think that we kind of overlooked how great our music scene was just right there at home and with all our friends. There's so many great bands and great players, and most of them are still going, I mean, like Toad the Wet Sprocket came out of that. And, Marco went on to Sugarcoat, and Luke had a band called Silverjet that made a record for Virgin. Steve's in Nerf Herder.
Yeah.
Of course. So
Yeah, so those guys are all guys you went to high school and junior high with. Right?
Yeah. And we just played all the time. My buddy Luke, his parents were like the parents that let everybody just hang out in their house all the time. So his parents let us build a skate ramp there. His parents were the ones that would drive us to LA to go see like Armored Saint. His parents would let us rehearse in their garage or in their living room. That was kind of that house.
That's really cool. Everybody has to have one. When you're growing up, your parents have to be cool with the drums being loud. And
my mom was not cool with the drums being loud. I remember I put a drum set in my bedroom, and that did not last long. That's
story. I mean,
it was a different time. There was no school of rock. Parents were not encouraging of that sort of thing.
Especially in that period of time, right? I mean, you didn't know where you went. Did you hear like cool songs playing like out in a restaurant, or it was just
no. My mom didn't like dress me in her like James Taylor onesie or whatever. Like when I was a baby, the way we all did with our kids,
which is so great. So talk to me about that period when you started with Los Kittens, and then what was the next band that you put together from that?
Well, we moved to LA at the beginning of 1990, and kind of tried to keep the Lost Kittens going for a little while, and then it just kind of fell apart. And music was like changing a lot, and then played in a couple other things. Played a lot just in random stuff that wouldn't last too long. I was in a band called Green Thumb with my brother, with some other friends. Buck from Liquid Jesus was the singer in that band, and like kind of got maybe sort of close-ish to getting a record deal in that time, but it never really happened. And then I moved up to San Francisco and got a job at Fat Records and joined a band called No Use for a Name.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Isn't it great? And again, we almost met. I think you just joined them right after the band suggested at one of the festivals in Long Beach that the audience destroy the giant like vinyl Barney that kids were playing at
I
this
missed
punk
that.
rock family festival. And the band was encouraging people to destroy it. They did. They attacked it, and all of a sudden they were chased out of town.
Yeah,
it
was like inciting a riot kind of charge.
It was one of those charges. And then you joined shortly thereafter, which is great. Tell me about what it was like working at Fat Records at that period of time with Fat Mike.
It was great. I moved up there, and I moved up there with my friend Joey, who's the singer in Lagwagon, and Joey pretty much convinced Fat Mike to give me a job at Fat, and I didn't work there too long. And my job, ironically, was to call mom and pop record stores and make sure that they had No Use for a Name records in stock because they had just put out a record. And then one day, No Use for a Name walked into the office and said, "Our guitar player just quit, and we're leaving on tour on Monday." And that was that. Mike just went, "Take this guy."
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Me first.
But then when I would come back from tour, because we weren't making like a lot of money, you'd come back from tour and you'd pretty much spend what you made within a month or so, and then Mike would always give me a job, just like not even really doing anything that needed to be done. Just you could pack some mail order or something. He'd give me a little money under the table, and always made sure that I had a little money in my pocket.
That's cool. It's great. I'm really glad that friendship back then. It was. Yeah. He was there this weekend before he left for the No Effects tour when I was doing guided tours of the Punk Rock Museum, and I was talking about you in there, of course, because there was No Use for a Name stuff and Me First in the Gimme Gimmes and a postcard that Dave Grohl wrote to the Necros when he was 14 years old, asking for a sticker. And when they were in town, it was amazing. His stuff was incredible. Yeah. But tell me about the Me First and the Gimme Gimmes thing. Were you excited at the concept of being in a band that was doing all these kind of cool, fast punk covers of these classic 70s songs. What was your feeling about it?
I think Me First and the Gimmes was ultimately Joey's idea, because if you remember, there was a kind of a trend back then where every punk rock band, it seemed like, in that world of like Fat Wreck Chords, Epitaph, like every record would have an 80s cover on it. And that would usually be like the best song on the record, like I'll Stop the World and Melt With You, or like something like that. So I think it was Joey's idea. Like, we should just do a band that the whole band is that, just because then you don't have to worry about writing songs. You're doing these songs that everybody loves anyway. And we'll wear Hawaiian shirts. It was really conceptual. And we'll be super drunk. But really the original idea was not even to make records. I don't even know if we originally, I think recording was maybe the first thing that we did, but the idea was we were going to put out 7 inches, and each 7-inch, and we did this for a little while, each 7-inch would be on a different label. And we would only do shows locally up in San Francisco every now and again. And that was kind of what it was for the first couple of years. And then eventually, after putting out a bunch of the 7 inches, Mike put out that first record. And then it started to become a touring thing. But by that time, I was already in Foo Fighters and wasn't really a part of that so much.
Tell me about you when you literally going up to that audition. Wasn't there like a friend that you'd spoken to because Guns N' Roses were looking for somebody, and you're like, hey man, I'd rather audition for the Foo Fighters at that period of time. Not that you didn't love Guns.
That story has been blown out of proportion for many years. That I never auditioned for Guns N' Roses, and you have to remember, and it sounds like a stupid thing that I don't want to be in Guns N' Roses, but you have to remember, this was 1999. It was not the Guns N' Roses that we all know and love. It was like, none of the band was in the band anymore by that time, except for Axl, and it was like that they were in that wilderness of not making a record for a very long time. So, and I love the Foo Fighters, and I had heard that the guitar player left, so I was like, hey buddy, why don't you see if you can get me an audition with them? And then I just forgot about it, and then like months went by, and then I just randomly got a call. Hey, this is Gus. We're having auditions out in LA, and you want to come audition? I was like, fuck off. Who is this?
Gus Brandt, right? He was
Gus Brandt, yeah.
Gus is a good man.
And I knew Gus a little bit because he had tour managed Seaweed on the first Warped Tour. So I always figured that was probably, that was my in. Yeah. And he got me in like on day 2. Because when I came back at the end of the week, like they had aged 1,000 years because they'd been auditioning people all week, Yeah. I got in when they were fresh.
Yeah. Which was, and that's a great thing because, and tell me about that situation where you were in a band for a bit that actually opened for Scream, right, at some point.
Yeah, I was in high school. I played bass in a band called Rat Pack. Yeah. And we opened for Scream. I kick myself now because it's like the one time in high school I did the right thing and just played the gig and went home. And then they all went and partied at the drummer's house, and now I'm not part of that story, but I was in the room when they were playing, so I kind of met Dave. Well, I don't think I really met him at that show, but I watched him. Yeah. And it is true. I mean, I've said this many times, but like the buzz at that show was on him even then, and that would have been like, I don't know, 1988 or something, around then. It was way before Nirvana. Yeah.
It's incredible. But you walked in, and
he's always been good.
Yeah. And he's always had that, he immediately loved you because of that punk rock connection that you guys had.
Oh, don't think I didn't just drop that right at the first audition. Hey, remember that Scream gig, buddy? Remember that? Right here, bro.
That's great. And that definitely, that sealed it, which was great. Plus, you could play, which was incredible.
Well, there was one guy that learned all the songs in the wrong tuning or something, and then there was another guy that, locked his guitar case and didn't bring the key. That was another audition. Which that one, I'm like, bro, break the fucking lock. Like, what are you, you're just gonna leave? Sorry guys, it's locked.
Yeah.
Who does that, man? I would have been like, give me a knife. Gus, quick.
Yeah. Who is that guy, right? Like, who does that?
I don't know, man.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the rest is incredible history. And of course, backing back, there was that one moment where you're like, I don't know what's going on now, but everything worked out great. I remember seeing, of course, the documentary and knowing you back then. There was a period where you weren't sure if you were going to stay at that point.
Well, no, there was a moment where, I was still pretty new to the band. We hadn't made a record since I joined. It was sort of like that Nothing Left to Lose tour cycle had run its course, and we were at a rehearsal, getting ready to play Coachella, and all of a sudden there was a big fight happening, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" I was still new to it, yeah. So there was a moment there where I thought, "Well, that was fun." Fuck. Is it me?
Yeah. But then, of course, you got to make One by One, which was incredible.
That moment didn't last long. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
It should have. Bands are.
It's so much.
Temperamental.
There's so much history in it, and just seriously, one of the greatest bands in the world. I've loved it's everything. There's so many things that you guys have done, and there's so much history that I've been able to witness with you guys from from that period of time. But Chris, there was always for you. We missed one thing. You were almost thinking you were going to be a professional soccer player at one point too. This is what I want to.
This goes hand in hand. This is part of this one and the Guns N' Roses one. These are the internet rumors that will chase me till I'm.
I'm glad you're clearing them up with me, so I never have to ask you that again.
I always that one in particular makes me laugh because if you knew me when I was, like 18 or whatever, nobody was mistaking me for a professional athlete at that point. I played AYSO, man. Like when I was like 11, I never got anywhere near being a professional soccer player. But it's a great rumor. Yeah, I should just embrace it. It always makes me laugh because I think I play like in like adult pickup games around town. Just 'cause I love soccer, but and I'm fucking terrible, but I'm enthusiastic, and I just always think the guys that I play with in those games that are good must be like, that guy was gonna be a pro. What happened? Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. No truth at all.
Yeah, it's funny, the internet sometimes. I've been dead on Wikipedia at least twice.
I'm also not a former porn star. That was another one. Yeah, that was on my Wikipedia page. Former adult movie actor. It's like, called Silva's office, like, can you just clear that up? That is not true.
One morning I was on the radio in New York and I read that I died. I fell off a camel and I was in the jungle. The desert. Investigating a new form of music, smudge or something. It was like something ridiculous. But it was a good bit for the radio for a while because it was so insane.
Matt Pinfield, not dead.
Yeah. Grateful to be alive here, guys. It's so good to be with you. Thank you. After all of it, which is great. Hey, so Chris, you've always loved so many different styles of music. And can we talk about when you decided it was time to make your first solo record?
Well, I had a band for a little while called Jackson United. I always did stuff
right?
on the side, when Foos weren't busy.
Dead Peasants, right?
Well, yeah, and then so there was Jackson United for a couple records, and then Dead Peasants for a couple records, and I just was never comfortable just calling it Chris Shiflett. I don't know. I wanted to have a band, but what I kind of came around to realizing was that because I never have the time to do it full time. It's always just kind of something I'm doing on the side. So I could never keep a band together. And so then I just started making records under my own name. But now I've got the guys that I'm playing with. I've been playing with for years. So now I just come up with a name again, I guess.
Yeah. And how did you end up, finding those guys? Did you realize, were they friends? Did they know somebody? Did they have a similar love for music?
Here's where it's coming full circle. The drummer that I play with these days, he was the final drummer in the Lost Kittens. Wow. Boom. Yeah.
That goes back.
That's right. In like 1990. And then we just, stayed in contact, and I would run into him here and there, and we always talked about, we should get together and play some music. We haven't played music together in a long, long time. And then COVID happened, and I just missed playing with people, and I called him up, and I was like, hey, you want to just come over and we could just learn some cover tunes and make some noise? It'd just be fun to turn my amps on and make a racket. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then my buddy Fox, who had done some shows with me sort of right before COVID, I got him to come over too. And that's just become like kind of the core of this current thing.
Which is great. And tell me about your interest and when you fell in love with country and outlaw country stuff and figured that out.
Yeah, I always say it really kind of starts with like the Stones and the Beatles, not that they're country bands, but just those sounds, those old twangy guitar sounds, kind of starts with those records, and especially the Stones.
Like Dead Flowers and things.
Yeah, Dead Flowers, all that sort of stuff. Girl with the Faraway Eyes. They just had like little elements of that in there. So that's where it kind of started. But I was like a hard rock, heavy metal kid growing up, so I just thought country was like fucking hee-haw or something. You know what I mean? I didn't know anything about it. And it wasn't until way later. It was when I was in No Use for a Name that I got turned on to a lot of like all country stuff. But maybe a bit before that, like Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash and stuff like that. I just like old music. I like the way old records sound.
Yeah, like those Hank Williams and all that stuff. That's just like really.
And eventually, it just became more and more something. It's a funny thing when you get into a genre a little bit later in life because there's just so much of it to explore. So you go through all these phases. Like I'm listening to like the 1950s honky tonk, and now I'm listening to the 60s, and then the 70s and outlaw, and 80s kind of pop urban cowboy stuff, and now I just listen to all of it. But,
Like Eddie Rabbit and Johnny Lee, remember?
Yeah.
But going back, right, to all the stuff from the. So, tell me about that. I mean, did you dive in and watch that Ken Burns History of Country? Because I think it was great,
I
right?
loved it. Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was really. It's amazing to watch that one.
I mean, that's kind of why I started the first podcast I did, that Walk on the Floor, because I wanted to document. I just wanted to interview anybody that was still around from the Bakersfield sound. That was the sort of the initial idea of that thing, and that was like 3 episodes, and then everyone was dead. So now I got to figure out something else.
Buck Owens was gone, right? And
Well, I interviewed like Red Simpson.
Yeah.
I interviewed Merle. A couple other folks. I interviewed Dwight, who's like, he's not Bakersfield,
but he still did that
he's
duet.
a champion of Bakersfield.
Streets of Bakersfield, right? I mean, Hillbilly Deluxe and all that stuff that he did, which is cool, And then he became an actor. I remember when I saw him in like Panic Room, and I'm like, that's Dwight Yoakam? He looked so different at that period of time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was carrying the torch after all that psychobilly stuff and the kind of thing that was happening in L.A., Blood on the Saddle. And then, so tell me what that was like. Have you ever gone around Bakersfield and taken a look at any of that history?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's none. Sadly, there's none of it's left. Yeah. None of those honky tonks exist. I mean, I don't know if the structures are still there, but they're all gone.
Jonathan Davis from Korn actually bought Buck Owens' compound there. So
right.
He has a studio and all that stuff in from Bakersfield.
And the Crystal Palace is there, but the Crystal Palace wasn't around in the 50s and 60s when all those guys were cutting their teeth. But that's the Bakersfield sounds. That's a big one.
So many great records. Buck Owens, that stuff's amazing. I love those records.
And they just recorded so much. Apparently he was like really cheap. So he would you wouldn't get more than 1 or 2 takes on all those songs, and there's just a million of them. You could spend like your whole life just listening to the Buck Owens box set. Yeah. It's just like goes on forever.
With the Buckaroos, it's so much.
Totally.
Well, the guys back there were like that. I mean, remember there's stories about Frank Sinatra where he'd do a song and they'd ask him to do another take. He goes, "I already sang it."
Yeah.
It's like, and you weren't going to mess with Frank. You know what I mean? At that period of time. But I mean, Buck Owens. I mean, a lot of people that loved rock and roll. First exposure to him was Act Naturally by the Beatles, right?
Sure.
When they heard it on the B-side of Yesterday back in the 60s, and then people would explore. Depending on where you grew up, right?
Wait, what's that?
I mean, it would probably depend on where people grew up, but
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because Buck was like, at one point there, I think he was pretty much like the biggest country music star there when he was having that streak in the 60s. But, I mean, you can't really talk about Buck without talking about Don Rich, too.
Yeah.
It's like that. He was his right-hand man as a guitar player. That's what drew me into a lot of that music too.
I think it's great. Speaking of podcasts, man, I love Shred with Shifty. I remember when you were just starting it out. Can we talk about, because it's got to be a dream for you. I mean, you've obviously met a lot of your heroes over the years who really respect what you do and love the band. But tell me about how much fun it was to work with guys like Alex Lifeson or Ace Frehley. Let's talk about those sessions.
Oh no, it's been really fun. We're just finishing up the first season now, and we had no idea when we started it if we'd be, we had the concept, but I didn't know if we'd be able to get people to actually agree to do it because it's unlike a regular interview. It requires a lot more effort from your guest, and you find that nobody remembers how they played anything that they ever recorded, really. So you kind of need them to go back and review it and stuff, and most of them don't. But that's half the fun. But yeah, no, it's that's why I do it. It's like when am I ever going to get a chance? Because you do get to meet your heroes in this business, but you're usually meeting them backstage, and you have a quick little conversation, and that you leave that, and it's great, but for the rest of your life, you're like, fuck, why didn't I ask Jimmy Page that and that and that? So to get to sit there and talk shop with Alex Lifeson and Ace Frehley and all these guys, folks that I grew up listening to, folks that are a huge influence on me now, Brad Paisley and John Osborne, and Brent Mason. I mean, it's been amazing. Yeah.
Brad's a great guy too, isn't he? He's such good people.
So cool. I didn't realize when I interviewed him that he had done a charity gig up in Santa Barbara like the night before. He said he was up there, but I didn't put it together that he was playing again. I was like bugging him all week. What song are we doing? What song are we doing? What song? Just texting him over and over. Yeah. And then I realized that he'd been raising money for a homeless shelter or something. Sorry, buddy.
But it must have been a great time because he's a rock fan too. That's the interesting thing. A lot of those country guys are guys that grew up on rock and still listen to rock and love good songs. Right?
Well, that's the thing. When me and Marco were moving to L.A., we've been growing up coming to L.A. to go see rock bands. And there was this huge scene, and you'd go to the country club and the Roxy and the Whiskey and all this Troubadour. All those shows would be packed all the time. There's a real vibrant scene. And it pretty much died in the late 80s. And by the time we got here in the early 90s, it was freaking over. And like I said before, music was changing, and the whole sort of alt rock and punk rock thing and everything that came through that time, really there was a lot of rejection of the guitar playing that had been happening that we all grew up trying to do and emulate, and that fucking sucked, man. Yeah. For a guitar player. So country music never, all the good guitar playing it was there anyway. But country music never stopped embracing ripping guitar players. Through it just always has been that way, and I think that's a big part of what I love about it.
And you worked with Dave Cobb too early on, which is great. Who's an award-winning producer, but just he's worked with not only a lot of rock bands like Rival Sons and so many others, but he's had so many hits in the country world as well.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about how that relationship started with him. He's a Grammy winner.
Yeah, I went and interviewed him, and he was just so cool. And I interviewed him in RCA Studio A because he had that room at that time. And I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it's just classic, beautiful.
There were so many
classic
things.
Waylon Jennings and Dolly Parton, and I think Elvis a little bit, and just tons. And Chet Atkins built it. It's like a legendary room. And I interviewed him, and I remember driving away from the interview and just going I gotta make a record with that dude. But he's Dave Cobb. He's so busy. I just didn't think that he would do it. So I called him maybe the next day, and I just asked him. And I didn't really know him. I just said, "Hey man, would you make a record with me? I got a bunch of songs and want to do it." And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Wait, what? That's it?" He's like, "Yeah, I got a window. Come on out." And I did it, and I was so freaking nervous, man. I was so nervous because that's. It wasn't just Dave. It was he kind of has his A-team that he records with Chris Powell, and I don't think that Brian was on that one, but so I was in there with the cats that play on all those records that he makes, and I'm in there. Man, you don't know how bad your shitty demo sounds until you're sitting there in a room with all these people that you've never worked with, and they're like, "What do you want to start with?" And I put on a song, and it's just me playing the drums, and I mix. It is so bad. You're like, "Wow, why am I doing this right now?" And then we got in there and we cut it, and he works really fast, and I just remember we probably played it 4 or 5 times, and you kind of run through it and make a couple of tweaks, and then you really just get a couple of takes, and he goes, "Yeah, we got it." And I just remember going back into the control room, hearing it through the big speakers in there, just going, "Oh my God, wow. How do we turn my shitty little demo into that?"
I mean, I hear he works extremely fast too. He's really good at fixing things in here.
Oh yeah, you don't there's no 30 takes with Dave Cobb. You're banging it out. Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. Yeah. Talk to me about working with Hardy on the track, because now there's a very interesting crossover. Obviously, Jelly Roll doing country, and then crossing over into rock. Tim Montana, who He's having a big hit at rock.
I just
now.
played on his new record.
Right,
Tim's
which he
new
told me.
record.
I heard the whole record.
Oh,
We
cool.
went to the studio with him, Carolina, and listened to the playback. He crushed it.
Yeah.
It was so good, that lead that you played on that record.
Yeah.
It's a great record, and it was so good to have you on that. I just wanted to tell you. I didn't even think about that until we're sitting here, that you played on that track,
Yeah.
and it's killer.
He had texted me, "Hey, you want to throw a lead on this?" And I just missed it and was going through. It was probably like a couple months after he texted me. I was going through and just like reading texts that I hadn't read, and I saw it, and I texted him back like, "Hey, am I too late on this?" He's like, "We're mastering the record like this week, so if you can do it like now, you know." I was like, "Okay, I'll send something to you tomorrow." And just went to my studio and banged it out. It was cool. It was pretty much the same kind of thing as when I played on that Hardy track. Because I had interviewed him, and then he just, same deal. He just, "Hey, you want to play a solo on this?" And sent me the track, and I just threw a bunch of stuff into it. I love doing that. It's fun. Because you just throw a bunch of stuff at it, and I always tell people, like, mute as much as you want, chop it up, fly it around. I don't care. Just go ham.
How many tracks do you usually put down for that?
Ooh, it depends. It
Yeah.
depends. Like for Tim's thing, I just did one. He said do a solo from starting around here and ending around there. So I just did one.
And you knew Tim for a while too, because of
Yeah.
his friendship with the Foos, and
Yeah.
But I'm glad he's having success now, because he really
he's killing
deserves it. He's such a
Yeah,
great
he's doing
dude,
good.
and I'm really happy about that. So he did it with Hardy as well, which was
Yeah.
really cool, and having him on the podcast. So let's talk about the new record too, Lost at Sea, because I love Damage Control. It's got like almost a reggae vibe to it, but it also has a feeling of some of the 80s stuff.
Oh,
It's a little different, right,
Yeah.
than some of the other stuff on the record. Tell me about the song.
Well, that one was an old song, and Jaron that produced it had said something about, "Oh, it'd be cool if we had something that sounded a little bit like The Clash," and I just remembered that I had that, because it was like when I wrote it, I was trying to make a song that sounded like something off Cut the Crap, funnily enough, which is not a great record, but I love how janky the production is on it.
Yeah, it was Bernie Rhodes. I think their manager was doing like
it's like really thin, and there's tons of keyboards, and it's like abrasive. But so I was trying to do something like that, and then the song just kind of sat there for a long time, and I remembered it when Jaron said that, and sent it to him, and so we cut it, and of course, as always with those things, when you get all those cats, Charlie Worsham to me makes that song. He's one of the guys that play guitar on it. He does all the acoustic stuff. And we cut it out in Nashville, and then I brought it back, and then I was just adding like 80s effects to it. I just had my tape machine out, and I'm like, how do you make dub sounds? I don't know how to make dub sounds. Just make noise and turn knobs, and that's how we kind of just came up with a bunch of noise, Sent it out to Jaron, let him sort it out.
It came out great, though. I mean, it's such a great job. Tell me about working on getting to that third album and doing Lost at Sea. What were some of the things for you that were different in the approach from the first two?
Well, I asked Jaron if he would produce it, because I love, for those of you that don't know, Jaron Johnston from Cadillac 3 produced my new record, and I'm a fan of not only Cadillac 3, but he's just a great songwriter. At first I asked him if he would write some songs with me, and we did, and then I asked him to produce I wasn't going to do a record. I wanted to do just a couple of songs. And that's how it started. I went out and we just recorded a couple of songs, because I wasn't really thinking about making a full record. And then they just sounded different. They just were. It was just kind of, I don't know, something about it. The first songs we did were Dead and Gone and Blacktop White Lines. Yeah. And I just took them home, and that was kind of like the mission statement with it. I said, I want to do something that's like out of my comfort zone. I want to do something that doesn't sound like anything I've done before, and I felt like we kind of hit that on those ones, and then we just
I mean, Dead and Gone opening the record is a great tune. It's a cool song.
Yeah, thank you.
Has it been fun touring and outside? Of course, you guys you've been doing so many amazing tours over the years, and I've seen pretty much every album's tours with the Foos. But is it fun to get out and do these shows and go out and do your solo stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's real different. It's touring in a van is a real different experience than the way we tour in Foo Fighters, of course. Yeah, it's a little more down and dirty. But I dig it. It for me, because it's a ton of work, but it's work that I love. It's a labor of love, and it's all about being with people you want to hang with and having a good time and enjoying it and eating a good meal here. And it's just sort of those little victories. I've been in projects before where I wasn't having fun, and I always have to kind of check myself when that starts happening, because I'm a dad and I'm married and I can't, and I'm in a band that is very, very busy, and I just don't have a lot of time. So it has to be, I can't go do stuff where I'm stressed and not enjoying it.
Not enjoying yourself.
And I've literally been. I remember driving down the road in England in a Sprinter van. I just went, I'm never fucking doing this again, and I never did. That was it.
And one of the
I get in a Sprinter van all the time, but just with that particular group of humans and the thing that we were doing.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is, right, that you want to, be the greatest gift in the world is to be with people that you really enjoy being with.
Yeah.
Your friends, or you love them. They're like a gang of
like
family.
being here with you now, Matt.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love you. Thanks for having me, Chris.
No, but it really is true. Like, there's just aren't enough hours in the day. You can't. It just has to be something you love. And I'm a stress bag, and I fucking sweat the details and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I really enjoy it.
It's so great you're doing it. You know what I love? You just released this version of Cowboy Song, because I absolutely know we all love Thin Lizzy. And it's such a great track, and it lends itself so much to everything. That if you look at your history and the different music that you've done with everyone. Tell me about saying, well, I just thought it was a perfect choice. It's your new single, Cowboy Song.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been wanting to cover Cowboy Song for years, because like you, I'm a huge Thin Lizzy fan. I love Thin Lizzy. I think any guitar player's gotta love Thin Lizzy. But it's just such a perfect song lyrically to try to turn into a country song. It's and the music side of it was kind of the challenge, because it's
double leads.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's kind of busy. Now we're trying to learn it to play it live. And to play that part and sing it and everything, it's like it's a puzzle for sure. But yeah, no, I've been wanting to do it for years, and we wanted to do something kind of around these shows that we're doing. That we're going on tour next week. So, yeah, it worked out. Probably the best thing so far is that Scott Gorham himself posted a really nice thing on his Facebook the other day, giving it the Scott Gorham stamp of approval.
Which is so great.
I know.
Scott Gorham is probably was the longest running guitarist after Eric Bell with the band. He was American from around this area.
Yeah.
He went to England to try and audition for Supertramp. They decided they didn't want a second guitarist. They wanted a saxophone player. And then he took a chance and auditioned for Lizzy.
Didn't his parents send him over there so he'd stay out of trouble?
Probably.
And then he joined Thin Lizzy. Whoops.
Uh-oh. Yeah. There's all those crazy stories, right? But those records were so great.
So good, yeah.
No.
Cowboy Song. It's all of it, yeah.
It's what's some of your favorite? You've done England and UK and places like that before. What are some of your favorite places where you've gone and you've just felt a great connection with?
Oh man, so many. We just toured New Zealand. And New Zealand is amazing. I love it down there. Australia. Yeah. Anywhere that's, where there's nice beaches and good surf and, and lots of days off on tour. Those are the best places to go.
Do you surf when you go? Or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How often do you surf when you're home and you're off the road?
Not enough, man.
Well, you're dad, too, so you've got a lot of responsibility.
My darn kids keep me out of the water. No. That's not true. But, yeah, no, as much as I can. You need the ocean to play ball. So there's that. But yeah, we timed it perfect. Like, we have been in a bunch of places lately where there's really cool wave pools, like Abu Dhabi and Austin and Melbourne. And then we've been toured Australia and then toured New Zealand. So it's been good, man.
I think it's great to get to do that. It's interesting having grown up, in where you grew up in that area.
It's funny though, because I didn't surf growing up. I started surfing after I moved away from Santa Barbara. Yeah, go figure.
Did you ever surf with Taylor or any of those guys?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Sometimes on tour. Taylor didn't like to surf on tour because it made his arms tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's you guys
Taylor wouldn't surf if he had to wear a wetsuit. Yeah. So it had to be warm. Yeah.
And you probably sometimes you do worry. I mean, it's taking a chance when you're on tour that you might injure yourself and be able to
Come
play.
on.
Yeah. But you guys are tough.
Don't put that into my head.
No, I won't. Sorry about that.
Gonna take the fin right to my.
Oh my God! Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't want to manifest that in any way to you. And I think that right now, how's our time? Just want to ask you: is it time to go to questions from the audience? No one's.
We only have about 3.5 more hours of questions.
Yes, we do. But I wanted to just as we talk more about this with Shred with Shifty. Who have you not gotten on the show yet?
So
that
many.
You want for season 2?
So
and have you reached out?
Well, there's like the superstars that I have no illusion I'll ever actually get. You know, your Jimmy Page, your Tony Iommi, your Richie Blackmore. Those would be the big ones probably for me. We've reached out to so many people, and you know, some people you just don't hear back from. Some people are like, yeah, kind of maybe. But there's a ton. I mean, Slash, Warren DeMartini, Vivian Campbell, like all the like rock dudes that I grew up listening to when I was a kid would be the priority for me. I think.
You mentioned Richie Blackmore too. What was your favorite Deep Purple record when you were a kid?
That's tough. I don't. Maybe Machine Head.
Machine Head's right. Yeah, they just did
I think you got to go with Machine Head.
Yeah.
But let's not forget Rainbow.
Yeah. Rainbow Rising.
Rainbow Rising. Yeah. Or I know it's not the most popular one, but Long Live Rock and Roll.
Yeah, it's a great record.
Probably the one that was the most for me. Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
You know.
Dio's was absolutely great.
That's the best you can do for Ronnie James Dio. Come on, Los Angeles. The greatest goddamn rock singer that ever lived.
Ronnie was amazing. You know, you listen to all those things that he did.
That was my first concert, and Marco actually recently for my 150th birthday got me the flyer from it and framed it.
You found it?
Yeah. He was there too.
What were those earliest rock shows that you went to? Tell me about that.
Dio.
And what was after that?
Keel. I saw a couple times at the country club. one person clapping. I remember seeing, you know, like anything that came through Santa Barbara, you'd just go. Like I saw Night Ranger, and I don't even remember who played with Night Ranger, but Alcatraz, Dokken, many times. Yeah, all that stuff. And then we would go to like, you know, that was like a little bit earlier, and then Wasp. Yes, thank you, Marco.
Animal.
Oh, Wasp was a big one. Never saw Hanoi Rocks. Wish I did. But then that whole the LA thing happened with like, you know, Guns N' Roses and Poison and Jet Boy and Faster Pussycat, all that stuff.
Did you go to see them in clubs?
Oh yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, for sure.
So you saw some of those earliest shows, which is cool. There's a lot of great stuff.
I still have the flyers, dude.
You kept the flyers?
Oh yeah.
What's your like most coveted of those flyers that you have or show that you were at?
I don't know where it is, but I know I have an autographed Poison flyer from the Troubadour that CeCe DeVille signed. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
CeCe's a great
That's
guy.
Right.
He's awesome.
That's right.
Awesome.
Jealous now.
Yeah, CeCe was the one, like I said, the one guy from Brooklyn, Queens area, and you know the rest of the guys are from Harrisburg. But it's cool that you would go to all those shows you and Marco back then.
We used to when we would go to shows, because if you were going to go see a band at like the Whiskey or something, you could just go there at like 3:00 or whatever. We go there at like noon. Yeah. There wouldn't be anybody there, and you just sit and just wait. And I remember like just in the band would come and load in, and you just like go in and stand around and watch them sound check, and nobody cared.
And go in the side door, right, and just hang out.
Yeah. I remember one time seeing, I don't remember who it was. I don't know if Mark was there or not, but I think it was like Faster Pussycat. And we just like walked in when they were sound checking, and then one of the roadies was like, "Watch the gear." Yeah. And they all went and like took showers, and we were just in there. And like I don't remember ever eating at those. Like you'd be there for like 12 hours. I would never eat. You know what I mean? Because you'd have like your $10 to buy a T-shirt, and they're like, "I ain't gonna fucking buy a Coke or a Snicker bar or nothing. I'm getting a T-shirt and I'll wear it to school tomorrow. God damn it. Yeah.
That's so
And
good.
everybody's gonna know I went to LA Guns. You know what I mean? Goddamn right.
That's great. Were those guys all really nice to you back then, Tammy and Tracy?
No, I didn't know any of them. No, we were like the little snot-nosed kids that were like, with like Aquanet hair and pink pants. Like, we want to be like you.
That's good. Yeah, it's great. I love those pictures of you guys at Lost Kittens. It's really incredible stuff. So I just wanted to ask if there were any questions from the audience here, and just raise your hand if you can do that. Okay, what's your name and where are you from? Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl. So, yeah, what's your question for Chris?
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah. I tried to get Dolly Parton. Like pretty much any legendary country musician, I tried unsuccessfully to book on Walking the Floor. I mean, I landed some of them, but yeah, Dolly. Oh yeah, no question. So if she's in the audience tonight, just know, open invitation there.
Yeah.
Dolly,
are you there? Absolutely.
I tried to get Loretta Lynn once too, and
How cool would that be?
close. Or at least I got to the person at the label that told me no. So yeah.
We run into a few of those in our times, right? But what's your name and what's your question?
It's an act. Oh God. Like when I was coming up?
Stay at that Scream show.
Yeah, I would have stayed at the Scream show for sure. But that could have backfired because what if they was like, this guy's a dick? And then I'm like, remember me?
I don't think anybody's ever said that about you.
Yeah, what would I do different? I don't know. I'd be afraid if I did something different, then it wouldn't work out. I know one thing. I wouldn't have dropped out of high school, kids. It's a tough thing to raise kids and be like, do your homework. Like, you didn't. Yeah. Like, yeah, but mom did, so you're doing yours.
That's fantastic. Any other questions in there? Yeah, what's your name and where are you from?
Oh, yeah. Nice. Oh, there were so many great spots. There was a place out in Isla Vista called the Red Barn. Was that around for you at all? The Red Barn. It was literally like a little barn-looking storage shed thing. I don't know what its real purpose was, but you could rent it from. How the fuck did that work? I always tell the story, and I don't remember really how. Like, do you remember ever actually renting it? Who rented it? You rented it from the city. Somebody came and unlocked it. It was on a timer. It was and when the timer ran out, all the power would stop, right? And literally every band, there'd be like, you just cram as many bands in there at a show as you possibly could. And every show I ever went to there, and I went to a lot of shows there, ended with the whole place going dark. And that was it. It was over. And then we all went down to Del Playa and looked for cake parties. Yeah.
Marco, you remember that well?
Oh, yeah.
That's great. It's amazing.
Yes, he does.
All right, we're going to take another. Oh, okay. What's your? If you can let us know, stand up so we can hear you and tell us who you are and where you're from. Hey, yeah.
I mean, sure, yeah. I'm like, Mike Ness is such a hero to me that I don't know if I could refer to him as my buddy, but because I choke up every time I'm around that dude. I'm just such a big fan. And you talk about influences. I mean, that's like as big an influence. His music is as big as influences anything for me personally. So, but yeah, I love playing shows with him, and he's always super cool, and his whole band's cool. And
Johnny Two Bags, right?
Oh yeah, Two Bags, the whole crew. No, he's amazing. I love. I don't want to blow his mystique, but you see Mike Ness, and he's got the hair and the tattoo, and he's playing punk rock. But then you hang out with him, he's the nicest, sweetest dude in the world. Really, really unbelievably sweet and cool. And always, their whole team always makes us feel welcome anytime we've ever opened for them.
They're great people, by the way. He just did an interview with me. It's online. It's about a half hour long.
I watched it.
Oh, you did? How'd you like it? It was cool,
It was fantastic.
Right? Yeah, it was really great to be able to talk to him about him coming through the cancer treatment and getting ready to go out on the road again and do new albums. So that made me really happy that, goes back. That's such a great band. Yeah. But I love that. And so tell me, is there one story that you have? This will be the last question, guys, and I'm going to let Chris take a short break and get ready to play, okay? Which is going to be great. Chris, so in those days, was there ever a situation where guys like you, Marco, when you were first playing, where somebody in particular took you guys under your wing or didn't treat you guys the way you should? Because everybody has those stories when they were kids.
God, yeah. I mean, that's like, I would say that's what touring in America is when you're first getting going or just playing gigs. You before you know how shows work, everybody is mean to you. And you don't care because it's the greatest thing in the world. You know what I mean? All you want to do is play. But I can't tell you how many times you have to beg and plead for a warm case of natural light, and like a couple of waters or a bag of chips or whatever. I mean, that's like, it's for sure. But I tell you what, the very first tour that I ever did, I roadied for my friend's band, this band Wax. You probably know Joe.
Yeah, Joe said. Yeah.
So I was roading for them, and they were the first of three on it was Wax open, Face to Face in the middle, and Mighty Mighty Boss Tones were the headliner. And we drove across the country. I'd never been on the road. I'd never never driven through all of America like that. And we get to Buffalo, and it's the winter time, and it's covered in snow, and it's freezing. We get in there, and it's the Boss Tones and all their crew, and it just seemed like everybody was like 6'5" and from Boston with a mustache and a fucking Red Sox cap, and they just all looked like gnarly, And that band and that organization, I've never seen a group of people treat the support bands better. And so from that very first tour, that was like a great lesson. Like, that's how you do it. You make everybody feel welcome. I remember Dickie getting mad at me on that tour. He's like, quit asking if you can have a beer. Just get in there. Make a sandwich. I was like, okay. Yeah.
But that was the way, and that you took that philosophy with you every time that you've been out. You guys treat everybody.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. Is there any one last question someone wants, or are we, what do you, I'm just looking around. Okay. I can't see you very well, but if you can stand up and tell us your name and where you're from.
It's been great. Yeah, he's fantastic. I've known Josh for a very long time. Yeah.
We love Josh. He's so.
Yeah, no. I've known him for a very long time and seen him here and there. We have crossed paths a million times over the years on tour and with whoever he's been playing with. And this is the first time I've ever played music with him, a bunch over a long period of time, and it's fantastic. Yeah, it's been good I feel like I've gotten to know him this year in a way that I didn't really know him before.
Yeah, I've seen him play, and he used to do so many sessions as well, which he was great. As doing A&R, if somebody couldn't play the drums on a record, it's like, call Josh Freese. He'll do 2 takes. I mean, that's what really would happen, because sometimes people can get it, but he's been great with you guys. I want to say, Chris, this has been so fantastic to just be able to sit and talk to you.
Yeah, buddy.
I always love
Thank you.
with you. You know what I mean?
It's been fun. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah. It's so great to have everybody here. Chris, you're going to play some songs first. Do you want to take a quick break and then come back? We're gonna just everybody hang out for a moment, and Chris will be right back to do some songs for you, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you.